What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Middle Tennessee Geek. I'm Matt, and my thought today was with the resurgence of nostalgia shows that, thanks to Disney Plus, and of course now other streaming platforms have jumped on. I want to run down my top five favorites of Disney animated series. As you might expect, they're actually from the earlier part when the animated series started forming, and not to take away from any of the newer ones that's currently out or had been out in the last decade or so. But these are just my top favorites that I wanted to share with you guys. Let's jump into it. Now, these picks are in order from when they were released according to IMDb. These are just the way I scrolled it and sorted it so it'd be easier for me to find my top picks because they all came from that earlier 90s point. So I figured it'd just be easier that way. But my first one for my top pick is DuckTales, which ran from 1987 to 1990 with 101 episodes. And the synopsis goes like this. Based on Uncle Scrooge and other Duck Universe comic books created by Carl Banks, the show follows Scrooge McDuck, his three grandnephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and close friends of the group on various adventures, most of which either involve seeking out treasure or thwarting the efforts of villains seeking to steal Scrooge's fortune or his number one dime. Now, guys, there's so much more I can go into that. I could probably make a whole episode of just talking about DuckTales itself, because between the different characters that come in with the other seasons in there, especially one of my personal favorites, which was Gizmo Duck, because I just thought the suit was cool and all of its functions. But that is definitely one of my top favorites, if not my top favorite. And when it came out on Disney Plus, it was so cool to now see it and watch it with my daughter. We were actually watching a few episodes of it tonight just to take a break from our normal TV shows that she watches. And she's got the theme song already stuck in her head. Moving on to the next one, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, which ran from 1989 to 1990 and had a list of 65 episodes. And the synopsis goes like this. Chip and Dale are two chipmunks who start a detective agency, Rescue Rangers, along with their friends Gadget Hackritch, Monterey Jack, and Zipper. The pint-sized detectives deal with crimes that are often too small for the police to handle. Usually with other animals as their clients, the gang frequently finds themselves going against two particular arch-villains, Mafia-style Tabby Cat Fat Cat and mad scientist Norton Nimble. Now, guys, you couldn't like Saturday morning cartoons and not like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Just with the comedy of Chip and Dale and the inventions that Gadget would come up with everyday trash and how they get in these crazy adventures and most of it was always animal based people or figures they were helping. So when they say no case too big, no case too small, they're talking about the animals for the most part, but they do get some involvement sometimes with the human aspect. Now, there was a resurgence of a movie back in 2022, which came out on Disney Plus. It was okay. It was kind of a knockoff, spin-off, however you want to say, with that show in mind. It was kind of like years later after the show was actually a show, according to the movie. But it was okay for what it was, but it definitely didn't give me that nostalgia feel as this did. All right, moving on to my number three pick from Disney animated series is Tspin, which ran from 1990 to 1991, but still had a good whopping 66 episodes. And the synopsis goes like this. The series centers on the adventures of bush pilot Baloo the Bear, whose air cargo freight business Baloo's Air Service is taken up by Rebecca Cunningham, along with her young daughter named Molly. Upon his default on the delinquent bills with the bank and perceived irresponsibility in running a business, Rebecca takes over the business and renames it Hire for Hire, making her Baloo's boss. And along the way, an orphan boy and former air pirate, the impetuous grizzly bear Cloud Kicker, attaches to Baloo, and becomes his navigator, to which he affectionately sometimes calls him Papa Bear. Together, they are the crew of the Hire for Hire aircraft, a 20-year-old modified Cowing L-16 named the Sea Duck. Now, guys, Tailspin was one of those good, just all-around shows. They touched on a lot of, Jungle Book themed characters, which Baloo. Then you got his best friend Louie. Then you got the Sea Duck itself, which is a character in itself because the thing gets crashed and beat up and destroyed all the time, but somehow always manages to resurface and come back. And a lot of the show is inspired for Blue trying to figure out a way to earn enough money to buy his business back and get the seat up back the way. He doesn't have to work for Rebecca anymore and just go back on living the way he was living. But every time this seems to happen, something always falls back to him, and he ends up back where he was at square one. Then you got another Jungle Book related, Shere Khan, who is like a multi-billionaire business tycoon, but he's kind of on the sketch. So, all right, guys. Next on my top 5 picks for Disney animated series is Darkwing Duck. When There's Trouble, You'll Call DW. That's still stuck in my head. Darkwing Duck ran from 1991 to 1992 and had a massive 91 episodes. Now the synopsis goes like this. Darkwing Duck is about the adventure of the Tootler superhero, aided by his sidekick and pilot straight from DuckTales, Launchpad McQuack. In his secret identity of Drake Mallard, he lives in an assuming suburban house with his adopted tomboyish daughter, Goslin. Next door to the baffling dim-witted Muddlefoot family, Darkwing struggles to balance his egotistical craving for fame and attention against the desire to be a good father to Goslin and do good in St. Canard. Most episodes put these two aspects of Darkwing's character in direct conflict, although Darkwing's better nature usually prevails. Guys, Darkwing Duck is, much as it has correlation to DuckTales, it's still its own show. One thing what was always so cool about that, he would always start off when facing a villain, he goes, "I am the terror that flaps in the night." Then he would have some kind of secondary line which would be in coalition with whatever villain he was facing. So just the writing on that, just to always be able to come up with something new was always so funny, because you never know what he was going to say. And it's just seeing him, a hero, self-involved hero who started the show. He is Darkwing Duck, but through the first few episodes, which I think was maybe a 2 to 3 part start, which I'd have to go back to remember, he comes in contact with Goslin, who kind of gives him a different perspective on life, and him becoming more of himself, of Drake Mallard, more than he is Darkwing Duck. It's kind of like that Batman thing of Bruce Wayne is wearing the mask, or Bruce Wayne is the mask, and Batman is who he really is. So it kind of gives you that feel, but as the series develops, as he develops this family type with Goslin, and Launchpad still kind of becomes his best friend, not just his sidekick, you see him develop more as a family man and bringing out more of that home life versus just being the hero. But it's always kind of cool because he's, as Darkwing, he's so confident in what he's doing, but he always does something to screw it up and just kind of showing himself, but he always seems to prevail. All right, guys, and my number 5 pick for my top 5 is Goof Troop. You can't go wrong with Goof Troop. Goof Troop ran from 1992 to 1993 and had a whopping 78 episodes. And the synopsis goes like this. Goofy, a single father, moves back to his hometown in the fictional city of Spoonerville with his 11-year-old son Max. And as it happens, Goofy and Max end up moving next door to Goofy's high school friend Pete. Pete, which is a used car salesman and owner of Honest Pete's Used Cars. Pete's wife, Peg, a real estate agent, and their 2 children, 7-year-old son PJ, which is Pete Jr., that was hard to figure out, and 4-year-old daughter Pistol, and she is a pistol. If you ever watch Goof Troop, you'll know. Finishing out the synopsis here, Max and PJ become best of friends to do practically everything together, and a large portion of the humor of the show comes from the relatively normal Max personality, sharply contrasting with his otherwise goofy father. So, yeah, guys, Goof Troop is really hard to beat. It's one of those family favorites that our generation had to have grown up with and loved, just from, the nostalgia of those legendary voice actors like Jim Cummings and Bill Farmer, who played a lot of the voices in the top 5 that I picked. It's hard to beat that cast. It's a good all-around show. It does hit points of family and what's really important, but of course there's the goofy aspect, which is you never know what's going to happen with him. Just simple mundane tasks seem to be a challenge, and just having Max as a son who's relatively normal and sees his dad as he is, still loves him, but it's like, what is wrong with him? But that's just Goofy. We love the character as is, and yeah. Again, all these shows can be seen on Disney Plus if you want to get your nostalgia kick in. Um, those are just quick rundowns of what I like of my top five. There are so many more. There's still some running. There's been some that came out in the late 2000s that I liked, but again, just that nostalgia factor that made those my top five picks. If I had to pick five from a list and watch them forever, I could sit down and watch those anytime. So, guys, that's my picks. Let me know in the comments what your picks are. Go into IMDb, or IMDb, I think it's how you say it, IMDb, and look for Disney animated series, and it'll give you a rundown of what's all been out there and what's still going. Let me know in the comments what you guys would pick. What's your favorite? Do you like any of the picks I picked? What's the reason? All right. And as always, guys, if you like this series, let me know. Have other ideas for a similar type of series still doing of top picks that I may do if this one does well. But don't forget to unleash your geek and let your fandom shine, and have a good one.